I believe last year you collaborated with Angelique Kidjo and released the Song for Everyone in support of education for girls in Africa, correct?
Yep, right.
Yes. And she being a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and prominent global musician as well. Has your work as a musician been influenced by the work of the foundation?
Yes, and it was a surprise to me, but that just shows how little I've thought about my own personal development, because it makes perfect sense, and I was still surprised by it. When my dad made the announcement in 2006, one of the things he said to me as we were going to the New York Public Library to do all this, he said, do you think this will affect your music, this idea of this huge philanthropic gift and this shift in what Jennifer and I would be doing? And I said, well, gosh, I don't know, I suppose. And my thinking was that I'd be so busy with foundation work that it would affect it in terms of less of it in my life. And his greater point was the point, which is, do you think it will actually influence where your music goes? And the answer has been a big yes. And when I do my show, I show how when I was a little kid, my moods and feelings and experiences would affect what came out of me at the piano, which makes perfect sense. That's sort of the point of sitting down at the piano, is to get whatever's inside your head out in that way. And so, of course, as I experience things by the conversations, the travel, all the different things that go into the work, it comes out through music, and my music has been tremendously influenced by the foundation work, both with the song with Angelique. I did a couple things with Akon, plenty of things on my own. It seems to be now for me almost imperative through the music to say the things what's the word? Just put the things out in the world through music that I'm experiencing often in my daily life, I guess, through the philanthropy.
Yeah. It makes me think of the Robert Frost poem that says, "Yield who will to their separation. My object in living is to join my vocation and avocation. My two eyes make one in sight." And I've thought about that a lot as we sort of become more authentic in our life purposes and callings. It's hard to not integrate the things that we're most passionate about
Absolutely.
into our life work. Yeah.
And there's no reason we can't. I mean, that's the beauty too of all the media side of things, is you can start to express the kinds of things you're feeling on in one side of your brain, connect them to the other pretty easily through, a variety of creative ways. It's pretty great.
Yeah. We're living in an interesting time when celebrities like Bono or Angelina Jolie are lending their name and celebrity to advancing a lot of global issues. But that intersection of money and doing good in the world doesn't only have to happen at the celebrity level, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of advice or thoughts around how people engage in that?
Well, I certainly like to remind people that philanthropy means the love of people, right? Because a lot of people see the word philanthropy and they think, Rockefeller and Gates and all this stuff, and they think, it takes a lot of money to do these things, and that's what it's about. And it just isn't at all. I mean, if anything, it's more about time, which is way more precious ultimately than money, than anything else. So, every person can, as they start to feel the urge to act in a way to balance the world in whatever version they see. I mean, it's such a well-worn phrase, that be the change you want to see in the world. But the more I'm in the world, the more I realize, boy, is that ever true. And if you start to live out some of the things you're feeling in whatever way, and it absolutely doesn't take money, and it usually takes time, it's going to ripple out there as it always does. And so I think the key for me is to make sure people remember that their actions are incredibly important, and it's not just the Gateses and the Bonos and the all these people in the world that have the influence. It gets down to every single person.
Well, and I think a lot about how much money was raised with the Obama campaign and how those gifts came from first-time donors and in small increments, and how if we were to apply that same passion to some of these initiatives that we're talking about globally, think of the billions of dollars we could move across the planet rapidly.
Right, and I think so much of that does still get down to the personal interaction. So the kinds of things you're doing, the kind of thing, Zainab Salvi's Women for Women has been so successful because it puts an individual in touch with an individual. And I think that's when you start to get a true feeling the good feeling of giving and supporting somebody that you really can relate to and understand, and you learn more about yourself. I mean, so many of the women, the Western women that are involved in Women for Women, get so much out of it because of what they really learn about their own experience, the things they're grateful for, the things that are similar to issues in the developing world. So much comes out of that. So I think that the power in that is really the human connection and the one-on-one connection that can happen with technology. I mean, that's what's so great is you can really see that now.
That's kind of what I see too, is how can we naturally connect people who are interested in, who are getting inspired by these stories, and then how can they engage one-on-one in the work?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's critical, and I think, again, because of technology, it's becoming more and more possible.
Mm-hmm. I did too. So how can our audience get engaged in your work or any of your programs?
Well, that is a great question, because we have realized over these last couple of years that people are starting to hear about the work. Certainly the Guerrilla Effect is a big catalyst for that, but people start to hear about the foundation, and we are really now busy rebuilding our website to think about, okay, for the people that come to us to say just that question, ask that question, how do we help out here? How do we deliver some guidance? Because right now we really do point people, and it's absolutely fine, of course, to go to the Guerrilla Effect, go to other organizations. And I think so much of it, again, is what do you hear in what I might be saying or you might be saying that really gets you? What inspires you? And to look for that. And, of course, often it is the Guerrilla Effect because that's part of the conversation. And so guerrillaeffect.org is a great place to go. But I'm super reticent to say to somebody, this is what you should do, as opposed to what strikes you. What is it inside of you, and try and give some guidance in terms of places to look. But not wanting to be too definitive and saying just because I think this, you should too. But more of because it'll stick that way. If somebody's responding by going, "Wow, that really touches me. That thing you said about X, that is really the thing," then that's where you should start to follow the path, because then you'll stick with that path because that's that really touched something in you.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very true.
It's tricky because there are a ton of choices now. You go on the internet and it's like, and when you're giving your time or your money, those are precious things to every one of us. So it's like, how do you make sure that it's being used well, that you're being the most effective you can be? And these are things that still don't have always easy answers, But that's also why people will ask me or ask you, because they know we've done a little extra homework. And so hopefully the places we're looking at, the places we're supporting might be worthwhile. And again, I can't say enough about the Guerrilla Effect. We're working hard on that one.
That's great. And I agree with you. And I think that's where getting back to the partnership collaboration piece can also lend such great value when organizations aren't trying to reinvent the wheel or do things on top of one another, but rather come together. Then it makes it a lot easier for people out there trying to engage can see sort of the weight and the power of those partnerships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Well, Peter, I appreciate this time, and thank you so much for all your work and for making yourself available for this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you in Atlanta